Hello friends and welcome to virtual math class, and today we will be graphing objects and collecting data. The cub. Remember, the cub lets us know what we're going to be learning and what your job for the day is. Students will know the definition of graphing. Students will understand how to graph and analyze data to collect information. And analyze just means to observe or to look at. And this is your job. Listen carefully. Students will be able to use data to create real object graphs and collect information. Okay? So repeat after me. My job is to use data to create real object graphs and collect information. Good. Our vocabulary, so our first vocabulary word is organize. Can you say organize? And organize means to arrange objects or information in a specific order. And we went over that word yesterday and how they organized this graph. They organized all of the dogs, put the dogs together. They organized the cows. They put the cows together, and they organized the pigs. And even here, they organized the amount of girls and the amount of boys by using tally marks. Okay. Our next vocabulary word is data. Can you say data? Data is information collected. Okay. So for example, they used a graph, and on the graph there were blue bears and red bears. Okay. Those were the two categories, blue bears and red bears. And on that graph, they collected information, or they found that there were 3 blue bears and 2 red graphs. So that is the data from that graph. Another vocabulary word is categories. We also went over this one yesterday. And categories is the name for a group of items with a common characteristics. For example, fruits and vegetables. Those are 2 categories. What are some other categories that we used this week when we were graphing? We use colors like red and blue. Yes. We also use shapes. Yes. So we had squares, triangles, circles. Good job. Another vocabulary word is collect. Can you say collect? Collect means to gather objects or information. Okay. So that's kind of similar to the data. You would just be collecting or looking at what you see on the graph and writing it down. And then the graph that we're going to focus on today is a real object graph. Can you say that? Real object graph. Good job. And a real object graph consists of a graph with real objects. Okay. For example, like the blue and the red bears. Okay. You can see these objects on the graph. Okay. They are real objects that they're using. Okay. All right. So these are some examples of real life object graphs. So if you notice, this class did a graph that says, which do you prefer to color with, markers or crayons? And what they did was at the bottom, they used the categories markers and they used the categories crayons. And each student got to choose which writing utensil they like to color with, whether it was markers or crayons, and they used the real life objects. Okay. Even with snap cubes, if you look here, some students received a bag full of snap cubes, and they had to graph the real life objects or the cubes on this graphing paper. Okay. So how to analyze and collect data using a real life graph. So of course you're going to have some type of key to collect your data. You're also going to have pictures to represent each item that is on your graph. Okay. So the next thing you do is you're going to count how many real life objects there are when they're graphing. That's how you collect your information or your data. So first we're going to start with the juice box. Okay. So these students did a graph on what their favorite drink was. So what we're going to do is we're going to count to see how many students like juice boxes. Ready? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. So we will put the number 6 next to the juice box because 6 people's favorite drink was the juice box. Next is the milk. The milk. Okay. Let's count how many students liked milk. 1, 2. Good job. So we will put 2 next to milk. That's what our graph says. Okay. Let's look at water. How many students liked water? 1. So what number will we put next to water? 1. Okay, our data is looking good. All right, let's move to soda. Let's count how many students liked soda. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what number will we put next to soda? 4. Awesome. Okay, so our data lets us know that 6 students liked juice boxes, 2 students liked milk, 1 student liked water, and 4 students liked soda. Okay, so this is our data that we collected from our graph. So now Ms. Blanks is going to take it off of present mode, and I'm going to show you how you're going to create a real object graph and collect data. Okay, so we're going to start by creating a real life object graph. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort the colors first. So our categories are going to be orange and green. Okay, so I'm going to put my orange here. Oops, sorry about that. Then I'm going to put my green over here. Okay, now I'm going to graph my objects. Okay, I'm going to put orange here and green here. So I have 1, 2, count with me, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so we graphed our orange real life objects. Let's do our green. 1, 2, and 3. Awesome. So that is how you create a real life object graph. Okay. Now we are going to do this together. We're going to create a real life graph, and then we're going to collect our information. Okay. So we're going to look at these numbers later. So let's pretend that they're not there right now. So let's go ahead and graph our real life objects. Ready? Let's start with red. So we're going to put red with red. That's 1 and 2. Okay. Now we're going to do blue. 1, 2. Sorry about that. 3, 4, and 5. Then last but not least, we're going to graph our green snap cubes. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to collect our data or our information. Okay. So starting with red, how many red snap cubes do we have? 1, 2. Awesome. So what number are we going to put next to red? 2. Good job. Okay. Now let's record our data for blue. Let's count how many blues we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what number are we going to put next to blue? 5. Awesome. And last but not least, let's record our data for green. Ready? 1, 2, 3. How many do we have? 3. So we're going to put the number 3 next to green. Awesome job. All right, so now you're going to practice creating a real life object graph and collecting data. Make sure you complete your assignment on Nearpod and do your best. All right, see you soon.